I've been waiting, Snake, for a long time. One must die, and one must live. The one who survives will inherit the title of boss. And the one who inherits the title of boss will face an existence of endless battle.
A year ago for Metal Gear Solid 3's 20th anniversary, and to build up hype for Metal Gear Solid Delta, I put out a video going through what I called the Voyevoda challenge in Metal Gear Solid 5, to S-rank every mission, achieving all mission tasks at the same time, with all HUD elements and reflex mode turned off. The idea was for said challenge to be a prequel to the story of Snake Eater, as a stand-in for a game about the boss and the Cobras that, as of this video, has yet to be. Delta has now released, and I had no idea, right up until I was initially going through the settings for my first playthrough, that would offer the same opportunity to turn the HUD completely off. As soon as I saw it was an option, it meant one thing and one thing only: an epilogue to the Voyevoda challenge. Voyevoda Delta.
Spread your wings and fly. God be with you.
But just before we get into this, I wanna do right by my fellow fans. The original Voyevoda challenge was taken up by a few others, so please, if you've enjoyed my original video that put the challenge forward, be sure to check out 556ers with Pineapples, Just Average Gamer, and Katzen. If I happen to miss you out from that list, let yourself be known in the comments here. These guys were all YouTube would present to me through a variety of searches, and I for one know it's possible that it could be refusing to show me other people who've also done it. Now, on to the rules. The primary goal is to achieve a FOXHOUND rank, which requires the endgame results to be as follows. Play on Extreme or European Extreme. I'll be playing on European Extreme. Complete the game in under 5 hours. 0 continues, 0 alert phases, 0 humans killed, no more than 20 serious injuries, 5 life bars or less worth of damage taken, 0 life medicine used, no special items used. That's to achieve FOXHOUND rank in Delta. The rules of the Voyevoda challenge are as follows. Rule 1, the old soldier rule. Using the autosave slot is not allowed. I can only load from manual saves, and I'm limited to making no more than 25 saves. Achieving FOXHOUND in Delta is notably easier than it is in the original Snake Eater, because there is no limit as to how many times you can save the game. Rule 2, all HUD elements disabled. Throw trajectory, placement display, enemy indicators, subtitles, all turned off. Rule 3, new game only. Unlockable New Game Plus weapons and items like the AT Camo, and even DLC items like the One-Eyed Crocodile Cap, are not allowed. Rule 4, and this is a flexible rule that you can use to determine the difficulty of Voyevoda Delta, but the general idea is no changing camo or face paint. Originally, I recorded the entire run with olive drab for the Virtuous mission, and tiger stripe with no face paint for Snake Eater, with use of the scientist disguise where it works, since Snake is given it as part of the story. Keeping it to tiger stripe kept Snake's outfit consistent throughout the story, but this created an inconsistency with how these events are remembered in Peace Walker. So we'll call this hard mode. Normal mode permits you to switch to the sneaking suit for the final stretch of the game, but only when and where you find it during a new game playthrough. I've got recordings of both endings, so I'll be able to provide a bit of detail on both versions. This can be made even harder or easier depending on how much of a challenge you're looking for, but for now, behold, Naked Snake, CIA operative of Covert Ops Unit FOX. His mission is to rescue a defecting Soviet scientist by the name of Sokolov. Snake was the last apprentice of the boss, who he hasn't seen in 5 years, but she suddenly returned as part of his mission support team, having worked with Snake's commanding officer, Major Zero, in the SAS.
But there were still so many things I wanted you to teach me.
Listen to me, Jack. Just because soldiers are on the same side right now, doesn't mean they always will be. Politics determine who you face on the battlefield. And politics are a living thing. They change along with the times. A soldier has to follow whatever orders he's given. It's not his place to question why. There's a saying in the Orient, loyalty to the end. Do you know what it means?
Being patriotic.
It means devoting yourself to your country.
I follow the will of the leader, no matter who's in charge.
People aren't the ones who dictate the missions.
Then who does?
The times. People's values change over time, and so do the leaders of a country. So there's no such thing as an enemy in absolute terms. As long as we have loyalty to the end, there's no point in believing in anything, even in those we love.
And that's the way a soldier's supposed to think?
The only thing we can believe in with absolute certainty is the mission, Jack.
Having recovered his backpack of equipment, the complete lack of HUD very quickly brought back the necessity of adapting to the sort of blindness I had in the early stages of the Voyevoda challenge. The main thing on my mind was getting a feel for how many shots I had left in my weapon, a Mark 22 Hush Puppy tranquilizer gun. Not that it would matter in the Virtuous mission much. The first area of guards was a simple case of one trank dart, then rushing to CQC slam the next 2 guards on my way to the bridge. There, I naturally used the Hornet's Nest, which clears out the way ahead for a little while before the soldiers come back. An alternative means to clear this path is to shoot the suspension rope closest to the guards on the bridge. This will cause them to slip and fall into the river below and not count as kills as it was indirect. This mechanic of indirect kills not counting as intentional, its main purpose is for much later, but I'll make use of it earlier than that. Upon reaching the factory where Sokolov is held, circling the perimeter allows me to move in with a straight shot with only one guard in my path. I wasn't entirely in sync with his patrol route, but there was plenty of cover to make use of to take him down. Upon reaching Sokolov, he informs us of a power struggle within the Soviet Union. The KGB and GRU are racing against each other to have their scientists be the one to create the ultimate weapon that could win the Cold War for the USSR. Sokolov was creating such a weapon, but was under threat of both himself and his research being stolen by one Colonel Volgin of GRU.
The intelligence says that they are going to make their move during the test.
Then, the soldiers outside.
Exactly. They wouldn't need that many men just to keep me inside.
And Snake made it just in time, as making their escape both he and the KGB troops are confronted by the GRU. Outnumbered? Sure. But armed with close quarters combat techniques he spent a decade training and developing with the boss, the mother of special forces?
Ejected the first bullet by hand, didn't you? I see what you were trying to do, but testing a technique you've only heard about in the middle of battle wasn't very smart. Besides, I don't think you're cut out for an automatic in the first place. You tend to twist your elbow to absorb the recoil. That's more of a revolver technique.
You filthy American dog!
But that was some fancy shooting. You're pretty good.
Pretty good.
Catching up to Sokolov, the pair catch a glimpse of his ultimate weapon being tested, the Shagohod, but unable to complete it without Sokolov, there's no time to waste in heading for the recovery point, until the most unthinkable of events occur.
Boss?
Good work, Jack.
What are you doing here?
Sokolov comes with me. My friends, let us fight together again.
I have waited long for this day.
We will fight with you once more.
Welcome back, boss.
It's time we go to the depths of hell itself.
Kuwabara, Kuwabara. Ah, what a joyful scene.
Colonel Volgin.
Welcome to my country and to my unit.
Boss, what is this?
I'm defecting to the Soviet Union. Sokolov is a little gift from my new hosts.
Recoilless nuclear warheads. These will make a fine gift for me.
This can't be happening.
Who is he? Another one of your disciples? Are we taking him with us?
No, this one is still just a child. Too pure for us Cobras. He has not yet found an emotion to carry into battle.
What are you talking about?
Think you can pull the trigger?
can't let him live. If Khrushchev finds out about this, we're finished. He must die.
Wait, he's my apprentice. I'll take care of him. Jack, you can't come with us.
The new blood has been rejected.
Drift away. My place is with them now.
This is where you get introduced to the cure system, but given the requirements of a Foxhound rank, combined with how small your health bar is by default on this difficulty, there'll be very few times I need to worry about this. It is possible to extend your health bar, but that requires taking damage to essentially toughen Snake up. With Volgin having successfully stolen Sokolov and the Shagohod, that leaves this maniac with just one thing left to wrap up, launching one of the two nukes at Sokolov's design bureau to wipe it off the map. With this attack on Soviet territory, combined with the gunship Snake arrived on showing up on Soviet radar, the finger is pointed at the US being the ones responsible for the nuclear strike.
Did you know that one of our soldiers defected to your country a week ago? Her name is the Boss. She's a living legend. In Russia, you know her as Voyevoda.
You mean the boss? The mother of your special forces?
Yes, that's the one. And she took 2 miniature nuclear shells along with her.
You expect me to believe that this was all the work of a single soldier?
To put it simply, in order to avoid a full-scale nuclear conflict, we have to prove that America was not involved in that explosion.
And eliminating the boss ourselves will prove America's innocence?
The higher-ups have decided that you're the only one capable of pulling this off.
Upon returning to the area a week later, Snake is almost immediately ambushed by the boss and left without any firearms. Not that I planned on using it, since it's a lethal weapon.
Why'd you defect?
I didn't. I'm loyal to the end, to my purpose. What about you, Jack? What's it going to be? Loyalty to your country or loyalty to me? Your country or your old mentor? The mission or your beliefs? Your duty to your unit or your personal feelings? I don't expect you to forgive me. But you can't defeat me either. You know me too well. Just look at that bandana. If you can't put the past behind you, you won't survive long. Now, go home.
With her leaving us to make a choice, I make my first save of the run. There are 2 guards rushing in to investigate the drone explosion, and it's useful to cancel out the caution that'll happen when they arrive. You could run south back to the swampland, then come back and have all the guards at the start of their normal patrol routes, but I preferred a more direct approach, throwing one of my few stun grenades to knock them both out and prevent them radioing it to HQ. This prevents any reinforcements arriving in the area, that lets me knock out the one other guard in the area to cancel the caution mode entirely. Without a pistol, I can't repeat the Hornet's Nest trick to clear this area out, not to mention there's 2 guards at this side of the bridge. The solution here is to wait until they're both facing out towards the bridge, then CQC slam them both. The final guard at the other side can simply be slipped behind as we reach the factory again, grabbing the AK-47 and meeting our contact.
The name's Eva.
Boobs!
Having been returned our Mark 22, gifted a scientist uniform and a highly customised M1911A1, my familiarity with this section of the game means I may as well have not bothered making the next 2 saves. Surrounded by the Ocelot unit, despite the lack of enemy counter, I knew there was 10 guys I had to take out, starting with a counter flashing clear of the 4 that do laps of the area. Once they were taken down, the next 3 could easily be tranquilised by taking the hatch into the crawl space and shooting out of the vent grates. Follow that up with the sniper on the roof, finishing off with the 2 Ocelots who reside at the west side of the factory, leaving just the man himself.
I've had enough of your judo.
I see you've got yourself a single-action army.
That's right. There'll be no accidents this time.
You call that an accident? Well, it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't been showing off.
What did you say?
The engraving gives you no tactical advantage whatsoever, unless you were planning to auction it off as a collector's item. And you're forgetting one more very basic thing. You don't have what it takes to kill me.
We'll see.
Crossing the swamp, I made sure to grab the crocodile cap, which, with the HUD turned off, I had no way of knowing how much grip strength I had, beyond opening the survival viewer to see how my stamina was doing and guessing it from there. While sneaking into Bolshaya, I was hoping to get past the second fence without having to use any ammo, but one of the dogs was a little too close for comfort. There's a guard on the other side of this hill I knew would hear that, and unfortunately Tiger Strike camo isn't enough to let him pass without noticing you. Although I made up for this by taking out the guard at the opposite path from one hell of a distance, and sneaking past the remaining three and their dog without incident. As for Bolshaya base itself, there's no point going for anything that's stored there. Sure, I could absolutely max out on Mark 22 ammo, but there's already a Mark 22 pickup in Ocelot's boss fight, and if my aim was so bad I couldn't get it done in 25 shots, I was going to be in trouble for the rest of the run. Admittedly, I've not got the sharpest aim in first person. On top of getting bit by a poisonous snake, I was surprisingly on point with the third person aiming, although this is where I realised part of the challenge. In the Metal Gear Solid 5 Voyevoda challenge, even with all the HUD elements turned off, the only bosses were the skulls who could be taken out in seconds. The only major one was Sahelanthropus, and his boss bar was always shown on screen even if you turn everything off. In Metal Gear Solid 3, suddenly not having those life bars to keep track of how much stamina Ocelot had left was one hell of a wake up call for what was in store. Case in point, after a bit of legit stumbling around in the dark, seriously, don't play the cave section in the middle of the day, natural light will drown out the image of your screen. I reached my first major roadblock.
I am the pain!
Already more aggressive compared to his original counterpart, I haven't just no way of tracking his stamina to worry about. What I realised back when collecting the crop cap was centre stage. The only way of knowing how much breath Snake has left while swimming is mentally timing it. This was quite testing. Sticking to attacks I knew I could land, rather than likely waste frag and smoke grenades in the heat of the battle to keep him de-armoured and or staggered. This resulted in a more defensive playstyle that worked wonders in avoiding serious injuries as well as preserving health. His Tommy gun attack will wreck you, but not only does he only do 1 or 2 bursts of it, he usually de-armours himself while doing so you can use the platforms as cover and be ready to pop up in first person and get some free hits in. It's vital that you do the pop up while aiming in first person, because if you try to climb up onto the platform then aim and shoot, you're only going to waste time and he's going to do his next attack. The repetitive demand of animation cancelling did cause me to falter on tactical reloading, but the will to succeed is what got me to see it through to the finish. Upon leaving the caves, from here up to the boss fight with the end is a section of the game that offers more than enough Mark 22 suppressors to see you through to the end of the game. Just be sure you're unequipping them for boss fights, otherwise you're just going to be wasting your suppressor's durability. The first is in the west dock where you can grab the sniper rifle early. This is also the area where the indirect kills mechanic comes into play. Guards killed by the explosion from shooting an oil drum won't count towards your final kill count, which is perfect for the west and east docks. The latter can be quite the roadblock if you're running low on Mark 22 ammo.
Desaro, is that you?
The warehouse also has quite the demanding choreography. As soon as you're in, jump over the railing and the crates below to neutralise the guard at the bottom of the stairs. Quickly double back and do the same for the guard at the south end of the warehouse doing laps of the crates. Stick to walking underneath the balconies above and knock on the wall at the bottom of the stairs to draw down the guard who's patrolling the pantry. He'll notice the first guard you held up, letting you get the drop on him. That just leaves the guard on the top floor who can easily be sniped with the Mark 22. You can find a second suppressor by hanging off the railings and dropping down onto these crates. In the original Snake Eater, there's a trick to the fear allowing you to wipe out his stamina through using a stun grenade and an automatic lethal weapon like the AK. This has been removed in Delta. I upped the default aim sensitivity to what I was comfortable with, but even that's not fast enough to keep up with the fear when he's jumping from tree to tree. So I opted to do some prep work and collected some poisoned dart frogs you can find in that area prior to the fight. The area is full of traps, but they're more for keeping the scientists of Granini Gorki in than keeping intruders out. Having reached the Granini Design Bureau, your third suppressor is found on the outside of the electrical fence on the right hand side. Slithering along the length of the fence to the opening, there's a crawl space in the wall to allow easy access into the facility grounds. Here is where Snake makes use of his scientist disguise, slipping into it in the long grass Utilizing the guards' orders to keep the scientists from escaping, you can psyop them into taking you inside. Luckily, the punishment isn't too great. This area missed a trick. It should have had you spawn in the closed prison cell, so you can only get in and out of it via the vent shaft under the bed. The fourth suppressor can be found upstairs in the library, and after procuring some very Bond-esque tranq weapons to sneak past the scientists, you can double up on all the suppressors you've found so far, because they'll respawn after meeting not Sokolov, but his rival, Granini. He's upset due to his idea for an ultimate weapon being disregarded by Volgin, which is what caused him to turn to Sokolov. Although when Granini explains it, you can't really blame Volgin.
It is a revolutionary mobile nuclear missile system. A bipedal tank. Are you familiar with the theory of the missing link between apes and humans? Well, this technology will be the missing link between infantry and artillery. A kind of Metal Gear, if you will. And this magnificent Metal Gear will mark a revolutionary step forward in weapons development.
Metal Gear?
I don't know, sounds like something the Japanese would come up with. Granini also reveals that Volgin's got a wealth of funds stolen and inherited from a group of financiers in World War II known as the Philosophers. A record of all their money, the Philosophers' legacy, is what allowed him to build up a fortress in the Soviet mountains called Groznygrad, which is where Sokolov has been taken to complete the Shagohod. If that's where the mission takes us, then that's where Snake's going. The cigarette gas spray is completely overpowered when combined with the scientist disguise. The hardest part of escaping is the guessing game of opening this door and hoping the scientist on the other side isn't looking in my direction. Jumping through a window, into the vents and out of the building, we run into...
I am the fear.
This is where those poison dart frogs come into play. After dealing with the venom and arrow in the knee, I throw them out into the centre of the arena, at which point I just play the waiting game for the fear to use up his stamina himself while moving around the single tree for cover. I've known for well over a decade that throwing out poisoned or rotten food can be used to stop the fear recovering his stamina, but I've never had much faith that the fear would default to run up to anything you threw out, as opposed to hunting for his own food instead. Returning to the warehouse from the top entrance means taking out everyone with my remaining Mark 22 ammo is no trouble. The items that guards carry aren't random, and one of them in here is carrying Mark 22 ammo to help get you topped up after the fear. What lies ahead is the final jungle section of the game that has normal stealth, and sadly there's only 2 areas, one of which is completely optional and you might even miss on your first playthrough. Although there is one last sneaky surprise. If you reach the halfway point where it bends round to the right while the guard is nearby, you'll cause some birds that are hiding in the grass to fly away that can catch his attention and get you caught if you're too hasty. But the main feature of this jungle section is...
I am the end.
And I'm just gonna say it, the end isn't an interesting fight on a non-lethal playthrough. In one of the trailers for Delta, Snake could be seen using the Mosin Nagant, the tranquilizer sniper of the game, in this area while fighting the alternative Ocelot unit encounter, which you can't do in the normal game since the only way to acquire the Mosin is taking out the end via stamina kill. I really wish one of the changes Delta made was providing some way of letting you get the Mosin Nagant early, because I want to fight the end like a sniper duel, but if you're using the SVD, that's lethal, which means you're going to forfeit your FOXHOUND rank. If you don't get the SVD at the docks earlier, then it will spawn in this little hut. The way I do it was, if you get the SVD at the docks, then the Mosin Nagant spawns in this hut instead, rewarding exploration and letting you do a tranquilizer sniper duel. Reaching the mountains, the Mosin does get its chance to shine in the first and second area. A well-known Kojima-ism of this area is that if you blew up the helicopter back at Bolshaya, then this area will have guards on flying platforms instead of the hind helicopters. That's useful in weakening the enemy force if you want to go for overt combat and alert modes in this section, but with the no alerts requirement, there's very little threat the choppers pose when it comes to detecting you. The third and final area can be a little trouble. You can start by using both the Mark 22 and Mosin to take out a number of guards right away, but using the Mosin will more than likely be heard by one of the 3 guards that you won't be able to get a shot on from this location, resulting in a caution. This means cautiously advancing through the latter half of the section, where at the top we'll meet Eva, who can give us a key to gain access to an underground tunnel that will take us straight into Groznygrad. But that's not all we need. Sokolov is being held in the highest guarded area of the fortress, and the only way to get in will be subterfuge, i.e. stealing an officer's uniform, and Major Raikov in particular is a good match for Snake's build. His face is familiar.
What's the story between you and the boss?
She was like a mother, and my master.
And your lover?
went deeper than that. Half of me belongs to the boss.
Do you love her?
No, nothing like that.
Do you hate her?
Does it have to be one or the other? Love or hate?
Between a man and a woman? You bet.
For 10 years, we lived and died together. You couldn't possibly understand.
And you think you can kill her now? That's your mission, isn't it? Assassinating the boss?
Sneaking back down the mountain to the underground tunnel entrance is of very little difficulty, and this is where one of the subtle details of Metal Gear Solid 5's gameplay can prove a nightmare in Metal Gear Solid 3. Not in this playthrough, since I'm using the Mosin, but this does need to be acknowledged. In Metal Gear Solids 2 and 3, if Snake is knocked down from taking heavy damage, he'll automatically stand right back up with a few invincibility frames while doing so. It gets him back in the action. In Metal Gear Solid 5, he switches into prone position and will only stand back up if you manually tell him to do so. That works in Metal Gear Solid 5 due to the open world, meaning enemies are often at a much greater distance. You've got the trade-off of low natural cover to protect you from incoming fire. There's also the expanded moveset of being able to sweep enemies' legs out from under them if you got knifed by someone at close quarters. In Delta, getting knocked down and put into prone doesn't work and leaves you in a viciously weak position when up against the enemy AI of Metal Gear Solid 3, which still had one foot in the arcade-style gameplay of the early half of the series. I'm saying that out of love for the franchise and hope for the future. Although, one funny thing about this encounter, Big Boss is being chased around in the dark by a guy wielding a flamethrower weapon, and Richard Doyle is voicing the boss of this fight. Making it to Krasnogorje, this is where one of the other cool Kojima-isms that unfortunately doesn't get much use when you know what you're doing, gets its time to shine. Throughout the game, if you blow up a pantry or munition storage with TNT, it'll affect all enemies in that general area. Blow a munition storage and they'll only have a single magazine for their AKs before having to switch to a pistol. The important one is blowing up a pantry. This will make them all hungry, very eager to run up and eat any poisoned food you might throw out, but primarily, it weakens them so they get knocked out instantly by rolling into them. This is vital for the prison escape. Having blown up the pantry puts the fortress on caution mode, and Raikov is a man who at the first sign of trouble locks himself in the toilets, leaving all the other officers to do their duty. Although a quick whipping on of the scientist uniform in the antechamber of the East Wing means they can all easily get gassed with a cigarette spray, and since the scientists are all residing in the lab upstairs, there's no risk of anyone catching sight of Snake dragging Raikov to the lockers to steal his uniform. With help from a mask for an aborted CIA mission that has a fixation with sending on missions that don't initially require it, we head to the West Wing and meet Sokolov.
But I'm afraid you're too late.
Too late?
Sokolov lets us know of the actual function of the Shagohod and how it's capable of launching nukes within intercontinental range.
Using this booster, the Shagohod can achieve a land speed of over 300 miles per hour.
That's interesting to remember. So this is now a sabotage mission, but as for the rescue mission, after all he's been through, Sokolov's come to accept that there's no point in his attempt to defect to America anymore. He realises that no matter what side of the Iron Curtain he's on, his breakthroughs, discoveries and inventions, it all ends up being utilised for war by politicians, rather than improving the life of humanity. It's quite a somber moment.
Who are you?
What is this fairy disguise? Stay out of this!
We're after the location of the legacy. $100 billion, hidden all over the world.
You're the spy. I have no interest in this woman. I'll let this be the judge.
Captured and needing to escape, hope comes in many forms. be it a questionable allegiance, or spirits of the dead serving as a deus ex machina. Combined with winning favour of the guard to unwittingly win back our cigarette gas spray, which isn't the easiest thing to do with the HUD turned off, this secures a stealthy escape. I also made sure to remove the transmitter that Ocelot puts back into us in the meantime. There's no need to make things trickier than they need to be. There are 3 areas to get through in order to escape. The first will be your biggest challenge. It's a case of waiting for the first guard by the door to turn his back and wasting no time in moving around the south side of the area before the window of opportunity closes. The second area is just a straight shot of crawling to the third. And this is where blowing up the pantry before stealing Raikov's clothes comes in very useful. Without it, this area can be tricky to sneak through without the use of smoke grenades, or stealing single action army bullets to turn the playthrough lethal. But there's still one bullet that poses a threat.
Snake!
Huh. Don't die on me yet.
This is an interesting moment for Snake. We all know the River of Sorrow is the famous moment where every single enemy you've killed shows up in the game as a ghost, along with the somewhat funny result of there being no one but the Cobras on a no kills playthrough. But it's the implication that even if you have been killing people, what it says about Naked Snake, whether he's consumed by the sorrow of the dead, or is able to endure, or disregard it all, and yet he'll still go on to become the warmonger from the MSX games. I, on the other hand, for the sake of time, just drown Snake as soon as this segment starts. Since I can't switch camos on this run, there's no point trying to go for the spirit camo. Reaching the waterfall unopposed, Eva provides Snake with his fated to be legendary eye patch, our equipment, and the explosives we can use to destroy the Shagohod. There's a reason this tunnel is full of Russian glowcap mushrooms and tree frogs. I won't be making use of them, although I'll admit the glowcaps would have come in handy. Don't forget to pick up the cardboard box at the end of this tunnel, as it's the most useful one in the whole game. And upon returning to Grozny Grad, this is where the playthrough splits between sticking with the Tiger Stripe fatigues, or finding and upgrading to the sneaking suit. You can save yourself having to sneak through the fortress and weapons lab by heading to the north end of this section, climbing into the truck and equipping box B that you just got from the tunnel. This will take you directly into the main wing of the hangar. If you want the sneaking suit, run upstairs and go to the locker room and switch into it. The main benefit the sneaking suit offers is that it reduces all the damage you take while wearing it, which is very useful for the bike sequence.
Maybe we should make it the official uniform of Fox.
Although, how does Snake wear it? Given he loses all his equipment in the end but still switches back to Tiger Stripe, does he just slip it on over his fatigues?
Don't get worked up over details.
Anyway, you can easily plant the C3 on the 4 liquid fuel tanks by doing a counterclockwise lap of the hangar. Just be sure to trank everyone in your path. The guards and maintenance crew are able to detect the C3 being planted, and it's an instant mission failed if that happens. But even with things going smoothly here, there's always a complication.
Snake!
This woman was found snooping around my underground vault when she was captured. Look what we found on her. The Philosopher's Legacy.
What is the Philosopher's Legacy?
Snake, he already told you.
$100 billion hidden all over the world!
Isn't that sufficient enough information?
Boss, take this someplace safe. Take good care of it.
He wouldn't have come waltzing back in here unless he had a reason. I'll go see if there are any surprises waiting for us. I'll dispose of her as well. Leave everything to me.
But it's time to settle the score with Volgin. Hand to hand is the basis of all combat. Only a fool trusts his life to a weapon. But it takes an even bigger fool to showboat in the middle of battle, providing an opening for his enemy to take advantage of. The general rule for fighting Volgin is to keep yourself within mid to close range of him. You'll need that minimized distance to have a chance at dodging his machine gun and multiple lightning strike attacks, the latter of which you can negate by bringing glowcap mushrooms from the tunnel and throwing them on the ground. My run using the Tiger Strike camo was flawless, although I choked a little on the sneaking suit run. Don't worry about losing almost all your health in this section though, because your health gets automatically recharged to maximum when you begin the next section. Unfortunately, the EOD squad drained the liquid fuel tanks when fighting Volgin, which meant all that the explosives achieved was destroying the production line. The Shagohod itself is still operational, but we've got a fortress of soldiers to endure before we can worry about that. The first phase of the bike chase can be done almost, if not entirely hitless, with efficient use of the Moz and Nagant. But section 2, that was done first try with the sneaking suit, but without the damage reduction it offers, this was a test with Tiger Strike camo. You need decent accuracy of course, but you're also kind of at the mercy of how aggressive the enemies want to be here. What you're seeing here is a redo of this section with far greater accuracy than my initial run. On the first go, I was just barely able to get through with a pixel of health, then rely on the mechanic of Snake's health recovering when you're not playing the game in order to get even just 5 seconds into the next section. And you know, I really don't have much to say about the next chunk of the game in relation to this challenge. The runway is one hell of a relief in difficulty following section 2. By the way, speaking of the Shagohod, how fast did Sokolov say it could go again?
That monster can go more than 300 miles per hour.
Yes.
So how fast is this bike going? The Shagohod is the Shagohod, and Volgin, well, there was one hilarious fail I had to hold on to show you. But even after the CQC beatings and tranquilizers, Volgin is still able to fight.
Who's afraid of a little thunder?
But it was that one bit of overconfidence to forget his chanting of Kuwabara that the Sorrow had been waiting for throughout all of Operation Snake Eater to seize the opportunity to strike. The second half of the bike chase now, and again, it's phase 2 that's a nightmare with Tiger Stripe. I wasn't using any blue tack or a tearing of a sticky note on my screen to make up for the lack of crosshairs, but I came very close to resorting to that for these guys. Here's your bit of hope to hold on to though. If you can reach the log without the music dipping out from low health, you're only seconds away from clearing this section. And once again, with phase 3 reverting to pursuers on bikes, even with such low health, it was no issue compared to the flying platforms. On reflection, I'm impressed I was so bold to carry on without using a save. I still had a few to spare, and I knew I'd only be using 2 once we finally cleared the chase. Following the bike crash and Eva's injuries, we've got to reach the lake with the enemy in pursuit. You know, normally in the original game, I go for the log bridge, blow it up with TNT, and that gives you plenty of time to reach the end of the first area, no problem. Here, in Delta, I actually found it easier to take the more direct route, even when running blind into the walls on the sneaking suit run. Just firing 1 or 2 shots to keep the enemy at bay was enough to get through the area first try. The second area has a unique feature. It's the only section of the game where once a guard is knocked out, they're knocked out permanently, so there's no need to rush this section. Just be sure to catch the guys hiding prone in the grass before moving up with Eva. After that, Snake finally reaches the lake and is face to face with the boss, who, up until this point, has never explained why she defected. The mother of special forces who led the Allies to victory in World War II. What could cause such a legend of the American military to defect? She doesn't give an exact reason, but rather simply talks about her life. When she first got into contact with Snake at the start of the Virtuous mission after 5 years apart, she warned that a soldier has no place to question the orders and missions he's given. Devoting oneself to one's country requires a rather disconnected personality, unhindered by relationship with friends and family, as people's views change over time, and it's the times of an era that determine who a soldier's enemy of the day is. The boss reveals her father was the last surviving member of the original 12 philosophers, and before he was killed by the organization's inheritors, he warned her that it would be broken apart and taken in different directions by different factions, creating a cycle of never-ending conflict beyond the Second World War. But she would suffer at their hands even before World War II was over. She was pregnant when she took part in the D-Day landings, with the Sorrow being the father of the child. A combat wound forced her to give birth right there on the battlefield, only for their child to be stolen away by these new philosophers. Later in life, she would be subject to numerous radioactive nuclear tests, and this culminated with her taking part in the Mercury program, where she went through a real phenomenon called the overview effect. This is where an astronaut looks back at Earth and sees it as a single entity, beyond nation states, a world that is impossible to achieve when up against the momentum of history, or as the boss calls it, the times. There was one final tragedy, however. 2 years prior to the events of Snake Eater, the boss and the Sorrow had been set up against each other by opposing philosopher factions. One of them had to die, all for the sake of their child's life. And after such a life of being used by your homeland's government to that extent, how could you not turn your back on it?
I've never talked this much about myself before. Thanks. Thanks for listening to me. I feel content. Snake, I raised you. I loved you. I've given you weapons, taught you techniques, endowed you with knowledge. There is nothing more for me to give you. All that's left for you to take is my life, by your own hand. One must die, and one must live. No victory, no defeat. The one who survives will inherit the title of boss, and the one who inherits the title of boss will face an existence of endless battle. I'll give you 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, MiGs will come and bomb the hell out of this place. Let's make this the greatest 10 minutes of our lives, Jack.
Boss.
You're a soldier. Finish your mission. Prove your loyalty. Face me.
As for the boss's fight, if you haven't used up 25 saves, you can use the autosave here, because this fight begins with the boss rushing you for a CQC attack, and you do not have time to open the radio to save the game. So if you come into this fight with no health, you're going to get screwed over not by gameplay or a lack of skill, but a slow UI. As for the fight itself, maybe this is due to the rather cinematic and well-defined CQC attacks, but this is kind of a joke in Delta. Sure, it's nice to see CQC get such a cinematic focus, but it sort of dumbs the fight down into completely lacking any need for stealth. All you need to do is just chase the boss around, do a CQC QTE, take cover until she flees, then repeat.
Take this. Keep it safe. It's our only hope.
A patriot? Why are you giving me this?
Jack. Or should I say, Snake. You're a wonderful man. Kill me. Kill me now. Do it. There's only room for one boss and one snake.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
it's not over yet, as Ocelot still has his own score to settle with Snake. There's 4 ways this can go. Going off the cutscenes, Snake does pick the left gun, and it's only the endings that otherwise result in time paradoxes where that suddenly becomes a blank. That breaks it down to just 2 outcomes. One requires no player input, and the other requires the player to pull the trigger without taking a moment to correct Snake's aim. But even though Snake has the skills to know when a revolver chamber isn't empty, what good would trying to kill Ocelot achieve at this point?
Till we meet again, John.
And with that, mission complete.
You are above even the boss. I hereby award you the title of Big Boss. You are a true patriot.
Only the mission was a complete lie. The boss was an American asset the entire time, part of an operation to steal the philosopher's legacy for America. What our CIA bosses didn't count on was Volgin being crazy enough to launch one of the nukes she gave to him, which led to her mission being completely reworked to meet the Kremlin's demands.
The boss wouldn't be allowed to come back home alive, and she wouldn't be allowed to kill herself. Her life would be ended by her most beloved disciple. That was the way the government wanted it. That was the mission she was given, and she had no choice but to carry it out. Her death at your hands was a duty she had to fulfill. Out of duty, she turned her back on her own comrades. A lesser woman would have been crushed by such a burden. The taint of disgrace will follow her to her grave. Future generations will revile her. In America as a despicable traitor with no sense of honor. And in Russia as a monster who unleashed a nuclear catastrophe. She will go down in official history as a war criminal. And no one will ever understand her. That was her final mission. And like a true soldier, she saw it through to the end. But I think she wanted you, of all people, to know the truth. She wanted to live on, in your memory. Not as a soldier, but as a woman. But she was forbidden to tell you herself. And that's why she told me. Snake, history will never know what she did. No one will ever learn the truth. Her story, her debriefing, will endure only in your heart. Everything she did for her country. She sacrificed her life and her honor for her native land. She was a real hero. She was a true patriot.